Dallas and Mike McCarthy have decided to part ways after 5 years together. A very awkward situation where the rarity of a coach playing out his contract happened, and it's not the first time it's happened in Dallas. It happened with Jason Garrett twice, actually. This is Jerry Jones playing out his coach's contract again. Mike McCarthy, of course, was not unprepared for the situation. It's been a storyline for a couple of years now. He hired a new agent in Don Yee this year to handle this for him, and ultimately they can't come to an agreement. There was a dispute over the length of contract. Never really got close to re-upping, and so now, a week into the beginning of the spinning of the coaching carousel, Mike McCarthy's a free agent, and the Cowboys are looking for a coach. Now, we can start with McCarthy himself. I think on balance, he did a really good job in Dallas. Won 12 games 3 years in a row. Really kept the Cowboys competitive this year, even though he lost Dak Prescott for the season early in the year. Went without Dak Prescott in spots. CeeDee Lamb was banged up. I think if you look at the breadth of Mike McCarthy's time in Dallas, it actually looks pretty good. And if you look at the breadth of his time as a head coach in the NFL, over 18 seasons, I believe it is now, it's actually done a really good job. His resume is pretty comparable to Mike Tomlin's resume. So I would expect there will be interest in there. I'm not saying he's going to land a job, but the obvious connection he would have would be to the New Orleans Saints. Now, the Saints, I've heard, have had an interest in him. Mickey Loomis, I think has wanted experience in that role this time around. He's also preferred to have somebody that he has some level of background with. He'd like to bring in a known commodity. And Mike McCarthy checks both those boxes. Obviously, 18 years of head coaching experience is plenty. Having done it in two places is a plus. The fact that he did it for two iconic franchises in the Packers and the Cowboys. And then there is a relationship there. McCarthy was the Saints offensive coordinator from 2000 to 2004, which coincidentally were Mickey Loomis's first 5 years with the team. So I would be surprised if there's not at least some interest there from the Saints in hiring McCarthy. Whether or not it happens again, I don't know. There's also been the link there that's been put out there between the Bears and McCarthy as well. So, not 100% that McCarthy winds up getting a second shot or a third shot to be a head coach. But I think that those opportunities to at least vie for one of those jobs are going to be out there. As for the Cowboys, there are some interesting paths they could take here. Do they go back into the well and look at some of their old connections, like somebody like Kellen Moore, who Jerry Jones for a while had viewed as the future head coach of the Cowboys? Do you try to get him back from Philly? He spent a year with the Chargers. Now he's spending this year with the Eagles, and he's acquitted himself pretty well. Based on what the Eagles have done over the course of the year, based on what they've been able to get out of the running game the year that Saquon Barkley's had. Obviously, the passing game's got some issues. I don't know that that's as much, on the shoulders of Moore. So I think, you look at the job he's done in Philly, he did a pretty good job with the Chargers, even though that staff got fired. He's a guy who you could look at as somebody who could come back and be the head coach in Dallas. You could look to the college ranks. They've long had a relationship with USC coach Lincoln Riley, who I think would welcome the opportunity to take a shot at the NFL. Steve Sarkisian's another name to keep an eye on. He's right there in Texas, of course. He does have NFL coaching experience. He was an offensive coordinator with the Falcons, so he's somebody that you could look at as he's been a head coach in 3 different places: University of Washington, Southern California, and University of Texas. While those aren't NFL jobs, it does prepare you for the spotlight of coaching in the NFL on the biggest stage, which is the Cowboys stage. And he'd probably be able to bring a lot of new ideas to an organization that's obviously been doing things its own way for quite some time. So I think, you look at the Cowboys situation, it'll be a relatively wide open look at the field. And I think they could get creative and think a little bit further outside the box. Last time, you look at the guys they interviewed: Marvin Lewis, Ron Rivera, ultimately they hired Mike McCarthy. It was all guys with a lot of experience. My guess would be that they'll think a little bit outside the box.